The tritone is an important engine of the cycle of tension and release, fundamental to our system of tonal harmony. Church officials were afraid that if monks were to sing it, the devil himself would appear.
There is a sound so unsettling that it can shake the very fabric of your reality, a discord so profound that it stirs something ancient within you. This is the devil's interval, a sound so infamous that for centuries it was believed to summon darkness itself. But what if I told you that this same disruptive force isn't just lurking in eerie music or forbidden melodies? It's woven into your daily life, subtly throwing your mind and body out of harmony. How much of your reality has been dictated by a frequency you never knew was working against you? The disharmony of the tritone. For centuries it was believed that playing certain frequencies together, most notably 741 Hz with 528 Hz, created a resonance so dissonant that it could break not just the mind but the body as well. It is a space between notes where harmony is suspended, where the usual balance of sound bends into something forbidden. The devil's interval, known in musicology as the tritone, has long been associated with disruption, unease, and even danger. This is no mere superstition. Throughout history, civilizations have guarded their knowledge of frequencies, understanding that sound is not just an art form, but a force that can shape existence. The builders of the Great Pyramids did not simply stack stone upon stone. They aligned their creations with mathematical harmonics woven into the cosmos itself. Tesla, the brilliant mind who glimpsed deeper truths of the universe, spoke often of frequency, energy, and vibration, stating that they were the keys to understanding reality. What if he was right? What if every note, every vibration, held within it a code that could either liberate or enslave? The Catholic Church in the 1200s declared this sound to be the work of the devil. Monks were warned not to use it in their chants. Music theorists of the time called it diabolus in musica, the devil in music. It was believed that this particular combination of notes could stir emotions that had no place in the sacred halls of worship. It awakened desire, unease, even fear. Some said it could drive a man mad. Others whispered that it opened a door, though to what no one could say for certain. The real question is, why? Music is nothing more than vibrations, a set of frequencies interacting with each other, and yet humans respond to it in ways that cannot always be explained. Some sounds bring joy, others sorrow. Some are soothing, while others make the skin crawl. The tritone does something different. It creates tension that demands resolution. It is a question left unanswered, a problem without a solution. It lingers in the mind, refusing to let go. In medieval times, this was dangerous. The world was seen in black and white, good and evil, divine and profane. Music that did not resolve, that left the listener suspended in uncertainty, was thought to lead the soul astray. It was a sound that did not belong in heaven, so it must have belonged to hell. But was this fear justified? Or was it simply a social construct, a superstition born from a misunderstanding of how the human mind interacts with sound? The devil's interval did not disappear. It survived in secret, lurking in the shadows of music, waiting for a world that was ready to embrace its power. Centuries later, it found a home in the rebellious, the defiant, the untamed. Classical composers like Wagner and Liszt used it to create moments of intense drama. In the 20th century, it became the backbone of jazz, blues, and eventually rock and metal. Black Sabbath, the band that practically invented heavy metal, built their entire sound around the eerie, unsettling power of the tritone. And then, there is the strange case of its presence in places most people wouldn't expect. The theme song of The Simpsons begins with a tritone. setting up a sense of disorder before resolving into something playful. The eerie soundtrack of The Shining uses it to create an atmosphere of creeping dread. Even the score of West Side Story sneaks it in, turning a love song into something that carries an undercurrent of danger. If the tritone were truly the sound of the devil, what does it mean that it has found its way into the most innocent corners of culture? Perhaps it is not evil, but misunderstood. In ancient philosophy, particularly in Taoism, there is the idea that the things we fear most are often the things we most need to confront. The shadow is not to be rejected, but integrated. Maybe the tritone is a reminder of this, the sound of the unknown, the unexplainable, the parts of existence that refuse to be categorized as simply good or bad. But then again, maybe those medieval monks were right. Maybe there is something unnatural about it. Throughout history, sounds have been used in rituals, in ceremonies meant to call forth forces beyond human comprehension. The didgeridoo of the Australian Aboriginals, the throat singing of Tibetan monks, the deep drumming of shamanic rites, all of these use sound to alter consciousness, to bridge the gap between the physical and the unseen. Chaos can also be freedom. What if the tritone is another kind of bridge? In some esoteric traditions, sound is considered the fundamental force of creation. The universe itself is thought to be built on vibration. In Hinduism, the sacred syllable Om is said to be the first sound, the resonance that gave birth to existence. In the Bible, there is the idea that God spoke the world into being. If sound holds power over reality, then certain frequencies might have a special significance, some constructive, some destructive. Could the devil's interval be one of those sounds? Even in modern science, there are strange connections. Cymatics, the study of how sound affects matter, has shown that different frequencies create different patterns. Some bring order, forming intricate geometric shapes. Others create chaos. The tritone, existing as it does in a space between resolution and discord, might have a role in this unseen battle between harmony and dissonance. And what of the way people feel when they hear it? There is no denying that the tritone provokes something deep within. Some react with discomfort, others with fascination. Is this just conditioning, centuries of religious and cultural baggage? Or does the sound tap into something primal, something older than history itself? Perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: if the tritone was suppressed for so long, there must have been a reason. Power structures do not forbid things without purpose. Knowledge is hidden because it threatens control. What if the real danger of the devil's interval was not that it led to chaos, but that it led to freedom? What if it was a tool, a key that could unlock something beyond the limits of ordinary experience? The monks of the 1100s feared that the tritone would tempt people away from the light, but perhaps they were afraid of something else entirely. Not darkness, but awakening. Not destruction, but transformation. Maybe the devil's interval is not the sound of evil at all. Maybe it is the sound of breaking free. In an old and nearly forgotten belief from the ancient Gnostic traditions, there was a concept called the archons, hidden forces that ruled over the world, keeping human beings trapped in an illusion, preventing them from seeing their true nature. According to this belief, the universe was not as it seemed. Humanity was not weak or powerless, but something far greater, something divine, that had simply forgotten its own power. The archons, these cosmic jailers, did not want people to wake up. They wanted obedience, silence, order. And what is music if not order? A structured system of notes, rhythms, harmonies, all carefully arranged to guide emotions, to create predictable responses. Music, when controlled, can be a kind of spell, something that lulls, soothes, and even pacifies. But what happens when a sound breaks the pattern? The tritone does exactly that. It disrupts, it unsettles, it makes people feel something else, something unexpected, something that does not fit into the neat structure of ordinary sound. It refuses to conform. And if sound is vibration and vibration affects consciousness, then the tritone may be more than just a musical oddity. It may be a key. The Gnostics believed that anything which created disruption could also create awakening. They saw the world as a place of sleepwalkers, people who moved through life under an invisible spell, never questioning, never looking beyond the veil. But some sounds, some symbols, some experiences could break that sleep. The right sound, at the right moment, could be like a crack in the walls of illusion. A single noise could remind a person of a truth they had long forgotten. Could the devil's interval be such a sound? It would explain why it was feared, why it was banned, why it was labeled as diabolical. Those in power throughout history have always feared what they cannot control. If a single frequency could make someone think differently, feel something that wasn't part of the script, was that not dangerous to the ones writing the script? The shift of 528... In 1939, a shift occurred, subtle but deliberate. The Western world changed its standard tuning to 440 Hz, a frequency that, when aligned with the musical scale, places F sharp precisely at 741 Hz, the same interval linked to disharmony and stress. Was this simply a technical decision, or was it something more? Some suggest that this was no coincidence, that those who understood the power of sound sought to suppress the frequencies that uplift and awaken while amplifying those that control and confine. Music, which once served as a bridge between the material and the divine, became something else entirely. From that moment on, something shifted. The number 528 began to surface everywhere, as if it had been hiding in plain sight all along. It was woven into nature, encoded into sacred texts, and whispered in the spaces between what we had been taught to perceive. But at the time, I had no idea. I didn't know it was called the love frequency. I didn't know it was said to be the prophesied key to the house of David, hidden in the book of Isaiah. I had no reason to suspect it was connected to the mysterious angel of Philadelphia in the book of Revelation, the one who would arrive at the end of time, carrying a key that would open doors no man could shut, and shut doors no man could open. But the evidence was undeniable. When researchers uncovered the original musical scale, it became clear that what we had thought were 6 sacred tones were actually 9 core frequencies, forming the very blueprint of creation. And 528 was right at the heart of it, the very center of the scale, the note of miracles, the frequency of life itself. But if there was a frequency capable of healing, of restoring balance, then there had to be its opposite. And there was. 741 Hz. A tone so discordant, so grating to the mind and body, that prolonged exposure could induce anxiety, stress, even death. In musicology, it was known as the devil's interval, not just metaphorically. The clash between 741 and 528 was so unnatural, so jarring, that it created a dissonance that could disrupt the very fabric of the human nervous system. And yet, this was the frequency that had been hidden within the standard tuning of Western music. The implications were staggering. This was no accident. It was a calculated decision, one rooted in military research from the 1930s that sought to weaponize sound itself. Studies revealed that 440 Hz, when imposed as the global standard, could increase psychosocial stress, induce unease, and create a world that was perpetually out of sync. Mass hysteria, they discovered, was not only possible, It was predictable. From that moment on, music itself became a tool of control. Before the shift, sound was sacred. The ancients knew this. The Egyptians, the Sumerians, the builders of the pyramids, each civilization held the knowledge that sound was more than just vibration. It was a force capable of shaping reality. The universe itself was constructed according to these 9 tones, encoded into the very mathematics of existence. And yet, this knowledge had been buried. After the shift to 440 Hz, music changed. Something unspoken crept into the cultural fabric. The world moved from the era of smooth, harmonic melodies, the kind that resonated with the human soul, to something else. Something charged with an undercurrent of chaos. When women fainted at the sound of Frank Sinatra's voice, it wasn't hysteria, it was resonance. His music carried echoes of the old frequencies, the ones that aligned with nature. But when the shift took hold, a new kind of music emerged, a sound engineered to elicit riotous energy, dissonance and disorder. Elvis Presley, the Beatles. Rock and roll wasn't just a cultural revolution, it was an experiment in frequency manipulation, a test to see how sound could alter human behavior, push boundaries, and incite mass reactions. And the results were clear. But why? Ancient traditions recognized the significance of sound, using chants, hymns, and tonal vibrations to heal, enlighten, and transform. The solfeggio frequencies, a series of sacred tones, were once integral to spiritual practice. Among them, the third note, 528 Hz, was known as the miracle frequency, Mi, from the Latin mira gestarum, meaning miracles. This tone, used in the most spiritually uplifting hymns, was said to realign DNA, restore balance, and unlock the hidden potential within the soul. The universe is sound. But what happens when you introduce 741 Hz to 528 Hz? The two should not meet, for they oppose one another like oil and water, like chaos and order. One frequency harmonizes and the other distorts. If prolonged exposure to this dissonance could lead to sickness or worse, what does that imply about the world around us? Have we unknowingly been surrounded by frequencies that keep us from alignment, from discovering the true resonance of our being? In the East, the concept of Nada Brahma, the idea that the universe is sound, has been taught for millennia. Everything vibrates, everything sings, every action, every breath, every thought hums at a frequency, shaping the reality we experience. When monks chant in deep guttural tones, they are not merely reciting words, they are tapping into the undercurrent of creation itself. Tibetan bowls, tuned to specific frequencies, have been used to heal the body and spirit, recalibrating the energy field that surrounds and permeates us. Tesla, too, spoke of sound's power, hinting that the great discoveries of the future would not be in physical invention, but in the understanding of frequency manipulation. He believed that by mastering vibration, one could influence matter, even tap into boundless energy. If this is true, then sound is not just an external force, but a key to the very foundation of existence. But there is something deeper at play here, something hidden in the spaces between sound and silence. The devil's interval is not simply a clash of notes, it is a representation of duality, a manifestation of the eternal struggle between light and darkness. In mythology, forbidden knowledge is often guarded by discomfort, by fear, by an unseen barrier that only the brave or the foolish dare to cross. It is the fire Prometheus stole from the gods, the veil between worlds that only initiates can part. The question then is this: what happens when you listen closely? When you begin to discern the hidden harmonies beneath the noise? When you seek the frequencies that uplift rather than distort? there are those who say that to hear the right sound is to awaken from the dream. Once you tap into this knowledge, once you align yourself with the vibrations that resonate with the soul, you shift reality itself. The reason why this secret was concealed. Why suppress the natural frequencies of the universe? Why hide the knowledge that sound was the key to unlocking something greater? The answer was as old as time: control. If sound could heal, then it could also harm. If frequency could uplift, then it could suppress. And those who held the secrets of vibration knew that a world in harmony was a world beyond their grasp. So they shifted the frequencies. They altered the tuning. They distorted the sounds that once aligned us with the cosmos. But something remains. Buried within the fabric of existence, the original frequencies still pulse beneath the surface. 528 Hertz continues to resonate at the heart of nature. It hums in the rustling leaves. It rings in the crash of ocean waves. It is the song of creation, waiting to be heard. And for those who listen, truly listen, the door begins to open. It was discovered that around 6% of the population was particularly susceptible to entering a state of crisis or hysteria when exposed to specific frequencies. This was not mere speculation. It was a scientifically observed phenomenon. But what made it even more powerful was the realization that these individuals, when placed under the spotlight of mass media, could become catalysts for something far greater. If their reactions were televised, amplified, and strategically promoted, their emotional state could ripple outward, influencing and even entrancing the collective consciousness. The psychological effect could be likened to a chain reaction, an engineered wave of social unrest, excitement, or frenzy. In essence, it had the power to shape cultural movements, manipulate public perception, and even alter the course of history. This is how, for example, the so-called British invasion of music took hold. It wasn't merely about talent or trends, it was about resonance, frequencies, a precise manipulation of sound and emotion that turned entire generations into unwitting participants in an orchestrated transformation of societal values and behaviors. But why does this work? The answer lies in 528 Hertz, the frequency at the core of creation. This frequency is not just a tone, it is the very foundation upon which nature constructs reality. It is encoded in the greenish-yellow hues of life itself, visible in the grass that covers the earth, in the leaves that stretch toward the sun. The reason that green appears as it does in the botanical world is because it resonates with 528 Hertz, the frequency of love, of harmony, of life in perfect balance. But it goes even deeper. Without 528, there would be no measurement as we know it. The mile, precisely 5,280 feet, is not an arbitrary number. It is encoded with the same frequency, a mathematical reflection of the underlying order of the universe. Without 528, sacred geometry would cease to exist. There would be no circles, no squares, no pyramids, no mathematical constants such as pi, or phi, the golden ratio, which govern the design of everything from the spirals of galaxies to the structure of DNA. The great pyramids of Egypt, built with a level of precision that modern science still struggles to fully comprehend, were not just architectural marvels, they were harmonic resonators, constructed with an understanding of these divine frequencies. Without 528, the very mathematics that govern reality would unravel. It is the beating heart of the universe, the vibrational force that moves through all things, linking the microcosm to the macrocosm. It is the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, the seen and the unseen. And when we align ourselves with this frequency, we are not just attuning ourselves to sound, We are harmonizing with the very essence of creation itself. From the center of our own being, the heart, both physically and energetically, 528 carries us outward, moving through the heart of the rainbow, that brilliant greenish yellow at the center of the spectrum. It is the frequency of life's pulse, the key that unlocks the mysteries encoded in everything we see, touch, and feel. And yet, for all its power, it has been deliberately obscured, suppressed, hidden beneath layers of noise designed to pull us out of harmony with ourselves and the world around us. But the truth remains. 528 is more than just a sound. It is a path, a door. And for those who are willing to listen, it leads to the very source of existence itself. Throughout Latin America, whispers of ancient wisdom echo in myths, folk tales, and spiritual traditions. Many of these stories carry a deep understanding of sound, vibration, and the unseen forces that shape reality. Hidden within indigenous teachings, Afro-Caribbean rituals, and even Catholic mysticism, there is a belief that sound is not merely a tool for communication, but a force that can heal, protect, and even alter the physical world. One such belief comes from the Quechua and Aymara peoples of the Andes, who speak of the sacred power of sonidos del alma, the sounds of the soul. They say that before language as we know it, there was an ancient way of speaking, not with words, but with tones. Elders and shamans passed down the knowledge that certain sounds could call the spirits of nature, open portals to other realms, and bring harmony between the human world and the divine. In some Andean traditions, it is said that the mountain spirits, or apus, respond to special whistles and songs, recognizing them as signs of respect or requests for guidance. These sounds are not random, but are believed to vibrate in harmony with the energies of the land. The indigenous flutes and panpipes of the region are more than instruments. They are tools for connection, each note carrying intention, woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Similarly, in Afro-Caribbean spiritual practices, particularly in Santeria and Palo Mayombe, drumming and chanting are not just rituals, but acts of creation. The rhythmic beating of the drums is believed to summon orishas, spirits or ancestors, forming a bridge between the physical world and the unseen. Each rhythm, each song, carries meaning and power, aligning with the vibrational essence of different forces in nature. The Yoruba-derived oriki, sacred praise songs used in Santeria, are thought to awaken the divine within a person, calling forth their true essence through sound. These songs, passed down through generations, are believed to resonate beyond time, carrying memories, healing energies, and spiritual guidance encoded within their vibrations. But perhaps one of the most intriguing beliefs tied to sound and creation comes from the Mayan civilization. The ancient Maya understood the cosmos as a place shaped by resonance. Their temples were designed with acoustics in mind, built to amplify chants and prayers in ways that defied modern logic. Some ruins, like the Pyramid of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza, produce an eerie, bird-like echo when clapped at certain angles, almost as if responding to the voice of the past. Mayan glyphs also reference the power of sacred words, palabras de poder, which were believed to hold the ability to manifest reality. These were not just spoken phrases, but vibrational keys that could align a person with the will of the gods, much like the ancient solfeggio frequencies that some believe were lost to time. Across Latin America, in places where the old ways still survive beneath layers of colonial influence, there remains an understanding that sound is more than just noise. It is a force that can bless or curse, summon or banish, heal or destroy. It is the voice of the world itself, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be sung again. And at the heart of it all, there is the same underlying mystery, The idea that certain frequencies, certain lost tones, hold the key to something greater. Whether it is the sonidos del alma of the Andes, the rhythmic drumming of Santeria, or the Mayan palabras de poder, there is a pattern, a forgotten thread that ties all of these beliefs together. Could it be that the ancients were right? That the universe is not just made of matter but of music? That beneath the distractions of modern life, there are still hidden harmonies waiting to be rediscovered? If so, then the question is no longer whether these frequencies exist, but whether we are ready to listen. There is a silence that speaks louder than any voice. It waits just beneath the surface of things, hidden under the noise of daily life, beneath the weight of thoughts that never seem to end. It is ancient, patient, and always present. And if you listen, if you really listen, you might just hear something you were never meant to forget. But listening is not what people think it is. It is not just hearing words or catching sounds. It is something deeper, something far more powerful. It is the art of receiving what is already there, what has always been there, whispering in the spaces between moments. Yet, most people do not listen. They mistake the noise in their own minds for truth. They fill every empty space with chatter, distractions, opinions, and endless movement, drowning out the very thing they seek. To listen is to open, and to open is to become something different than you were before. The fear of silence. Silence unsettles people. It is like an untouched forest, dense, unpredictable, full of unknown things. When you are forced to sit in silence, truly listening, you may hear not only the world but also yourself. And that is where most turn away. Because within that silence you may find truths you have buried, emotions you have ignored, wounds that still bleed. This is why so many people avoid deep listening. They are afraid of what they might hear. But until you face that silence, until you stop filling the gaps with distractions, you will never truly listen. Willingness is not the same as ability. Many people can listen, but few will. Why? Because real listening demands humility. It demands the courage to be wrong, the strength to be changed. The Sufis have a teaching, die before you die. They do not mean a physical death, but rather the death of false certainty. To truly listen, you must be willing to let go of what you think you know. If you listen only to confirm what you already believe, you are not listening. You are protecting yourself. True willingness is surrender. It is the ability to sit in the unknown, to accept that the truth may not be what you expect. Many think listening is about words, about language, but real listening is deeper than that. In many indigenous traditions, there is a belief that the earth speaks, not in words, but in patterns, in shifts, in the feeling of the wind, in the way animals move. Shamans do not listen with their ears alone, they listen with their whole being. In the Amazon, it is said that the ayahuasca vine teaches those who drink it, not through speech, but through visions, sensations, direct knowing. The elders who work with these plants do not ask questions with their mouths, they listen with their souls. This is true in human conversation too. Most people listen only to words, but true listening goes deeper, to tone, to silence, to what is not being said. It is feeling the tension in a person's voice, the pause before they answer, the flicker in their eyes. If you listen this way, you begin to hear the truth beneath the words. The mirror of the universe. The willingness to listen is the willingness to see clearly. In Zen Buddhism, there is an old story about a master and a student. The student came seeking wisdom but would not stop talking. He shared his ideas, his beliefs, his opinions. The master, listening patiently, finally picked up a teapot and began to pour tea into the student's cup. He poured and poured until the tea overflowed and spilled onto the table. "Stop," the student said. "The cup is full." The master smiled. "Yes," he said, "and so are you. How can I teach you anything if you are already full?" Most people are like that student. They are too full of their own thoughts, their own assumptions, their own voices to truly receive anything new. To listen, you must empty yourself. You must be willing to be changed. One of these whispers comes from the old belief in the Naga, serpent-like beings known across multiple cultures, but especially in Southeast Asian and Hindu traditions. The Naga were not merely mythological creatures. They were living energies, guardians of hidden wisdom, and keepers of powerful knowledge that could shift reality itself. Some say they lived deep within the earth, in realms unseen by the untrained eye, only revealing themselves to those deemed worthy. The Naga and the mystic's journey. To the untrained eye, these stories seem like nothing more than folklore, symbols of fertility, water, or the underworld. But mystics, those who dedicated their lives to piercing the veil of illusion, understood that the Naga represented something far greater. They were the guardians of the unseen forces that shape existence, the currents of energy that flow beneath what we call reality. No mystic understood this better than Nagarjuna, the Buddhist philosopher and alchemist who lived in India during the 2nd century CE. He was said to have been given his esoteric wisdom directly from the Naga themselves after descending into their hidden realm to retrieve the Prajnaparamita Sutras, sacred texts that held the deepest teachings on emptiness, the illusion of form, and the ultimate nature of reality. What was it that Nagarjuna discovered in that hidden world? He came back with knowledge that shattered conventional wisdom. Reality is not solid. It is fluid, dependent, constantly shifting. Everything we believe to be permanent is just an illusion, a trick of perception. But beneath this illusion, there is a force, an undercurrent that moves everything. And those who understood this force, those who learned to work with it instead of being bound by it, could break free from the cycle of suffering. Energy that moves between worlds. In many ways, the Naga were not just protectors of knowledge, they were the energy itself. In some interpretations, they represent Kundalini, the coiled serpent of energy that lies dormant at the base of the spine, waiting to be awakened. When this energy rises, it does not do so gently. It shakes the foundation of what a person believes to be true. This is why awakening is often described as both beautiful and terrifying. Nagarjuna's teachings mirror this process. He did not just teach philosophy, he guided people toward direct experience, the kind that rewires the mind and reshapes perception. His concept of shunyata, or emptiness, was not about nihilism, but about the realization that form and emptiness are inseparable, just as energy and matter, sound and silence, existence and non-existence are two sides of the same reality. The hidden patterns of power. So why does this matter now? Because the same energies the ancient mystics worked with still exist. The same patterns still flow through reality, unseen but ever present. The difference is that, in modern times, these ideas have been buried under layers of skepticism, materialism, and noise. The very notion that energy can be manipulated, directed, or understood is often dismissed as superstition, despite the fact that entire civilizations once built their understanding of life around it. The Naga represent the knowledge that has been hidden away, guarded not just by myth, but by the very structure of reality itself. To access it, one must do what Nagarjuna did: step beyond conventional perception, question what is seen, and look into what is felt but not easily explained. breaking free from the illusion. In some mystical traditions, it is said that all of reality is a song. The universe itself is a composition, a grand orchestration of frequencies that shape what we see, feel, and believe. To change the song is to change reality. To introduce a disruptive note is to introduce a new possibility, one that was never meant to exist within the carefully composed melody of control. And so, the tritone was cast out. It was labeled evil, dangerous, chaotic. But chaos is not always destruction. Sometimes chaos is freedom. Mystics throughout history have spoken of the same thing, though they used different languages. Whether it was Naga with his teachings on emptiness, the Taoist sages speaking of the flow of qi, or the Sufis dancing into ecstatic union with the divine, the message has always been the same. There is more to reality than what you see. But here's the thing. This knowledge is not just something to read about. It is something to experience. The energy the Naga symbolize, the wisdom they protect, is not locked away in some distant cave or hidden text. It is here now, moving through everything, waiting for those who are willing to listen. So how does one develop the willingness to listen? It is not something that happens instantly. It is something that must be practiced over and over until it becomes part of who you are. The practice of deep listening. It begins with patience. The moment you feel the urge to interrupt, to respond, to insert yourself, pause. Let the silence breathe. Do not rush to fill it. It requires presence. When someone speaks, do not just hear the words. Feel them. Watch the body language. Sense the emotion beneath the voice. It thrives in curiosity. Approach every conversation, every moment of listening, as though you are discovering something new, because you are. Even if you have heard the same story before, listen as if you have not. And above all, it demands trust. Trust that the world has something to say. Trust that if you are quiet long enough, if you are patient enough, something will reveal itself. The reward of true listening. When you truly listen, the world opens in ways you never expected. You will hear the things most people miss. You will sense the hidden emotions in a friend's words. You will feel the shift in energy when you enter a room. You will understand people not just through what they say, but through what they mean. And more than that, you will hear yourself. Because beneath all the noise, beneath all the distractions, there is something waiting for you. A truth that has always been there, whispering in the spaces between moments. And the moment you are willing to listen, you will hear it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.